was actually out in the city with my wife on the evening of the arson attack at the East Melbourne Synagogue, and I got a phone call from a friend who's a member of the congregation, and my wife and I rushed to the side of the Shul in East Melbourne there, and it was one of the most upsetting scenes I've ever seen. And I do see a bit in my job. It was the Sabbath, there was Shabbat dinner, there were children, families out on the street, and also the fire brigade was there, Victoria Police were there, the area was being taped off because it was a crime scene. It was extremely upsetting. This is not the Melbourne that I have lived in for most of my life. To have people, in their place of worship, sharing a community meal, to be subject to an arson attack and it turn into a crime scene is terrifying and should be absolutely unacceptable in a city like Melbourne, in a country like Australia. We also had the events at Miznon, and I believe you have heard from witnesses who were there on that evening. But again, the restaurant was overrun by an angry mob who were yelling abuse at people just sitting there enjoying a meal. There was the building was defaced, again, completely shocking. And I make the observation that restaurant, Miznon, was targeted because it's an Israeli restaurant that serves Middle Eastern food in Melbourne. And I know people have, strong feelings about the conflict in the Middle East. That's perfectly human. But equally, I'm unaware of a restaurant serving Russian cuisine being targeted by people who are upset about what's happening in Ukraine. And so I think one of the questions that this Royal Commission should reflect upon is, why does an Israeli restaurant get targeted, overrun by an angry mob because of concerns about a conflict, whereas a Russian restaurant, or indeed any other ethnic restaurant across Melbourne that finds itself caught up in a geopolitical conflict, is not getting targeted by angry mobs and overrun and targeted in that way.